Okay, so the Me Too movement has been just a big phenomenon lately. We've all been talking about it, but the actual Me Too movement had been started 10 years ago by women of color. This is something
Toronto Burke, yeah.
where a lot of people didn't know about this.
Well, it was like the time before social media, 10 years
Well,
ago.
social media was
You know.
mostly 10 years ago.
Yeah, but to the point of view where like now we're constantly on social media. I remember 10 years ago, we didn't have that. Like we had like the basic necessities of Google. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have Facebook came out in 2008, so just hit 10 years, I think, like with social media. But yeah, it was created by Tarana Burke, who, if you guys don't know about her, look her up. She's amazing. And she started the Me Too movement as a way for her and the people in her community to bring to light the ways they have been sexually assaulted and violated. And it was a way for these women, these people who have been violated, to acknowledge it, to put it into the space, and also allow for themselves to realize that it wasn't just them, that they weren't alone in this. It was to raise more awareness.
But there has been some criticism by women of color that it wasn't until um, Alyssa Manal retweeted, or the Harvey Weinstein thing with the Rose McGowan thing, that it took prominent, famous white women to make the hashtag known, and that was when it was caught on. And there was some criticism that that was really the only reason why it caught on. And do you think it has helped women of color, or has it helped white women in general? Has it just been hijacked by white feminists, or has it somewhat helped and somewhat didn't help?
I mean, for me, I think the Me Too movement has been an extraordinary phenomenon. I mean, I think for so long, women in general have just been tired and fed up with the things that were happening in the workplace and the things that were happening in their private lives, where they were being violated constantly. Like, and it was something where people say like, oh, it was fine back then, those were different times. But it was like, we're not that time anymore. A woman should not have to exchange sexual favors in order to advance her career. Like that time is over. The casting couch bullshit is over. And I think that in general, the Me Too movement has been an amazing thing, because people are talking about it more. People are more aware of it, or people are unsure of it. People don't know what's happening. And I think like one of the great things is that there's so much confusion about like what is right, what is wrong anymore. But it's like it's not the confusion about what is right, what is wrong. Is that people have been taught, our society has been taught, that there were certain things that were okay, that men were allowed to do, that women had to just abide by. And I think that was something that we were like, that's not cool, that's not true anymore, that cannot be the status quo. And I think, for example, like, so the Harvey Weinstein scandal came out because the New York Times ran this huge expose on it, and they had all these, yes, predominantly white actresses come out and say that this is what happened to them because Harvey Weinstein did this to them. And that was a major breakthrough, because all of a sudden, all these people were like, holy shit, we didn't know. All of these things that were whispered in the corners of like people's offices were finally like coming to light. And I think, yes, it did take like these white, strong, these powerful white women to come out. But because of that, more people were allowed to speak. More people had the what's that? The agency to speak. I mean, we cannot.
So you feel it did empower you guys?
I mean, I think in a way it did. I mean, I cannot say that the Me Too movement does not have its faults, because even right now we have the controversy with all these people, where there is with the Me Too movement, because it is such a sensitive subject, and because it is such a personal subject to a lot of people. I think a lot of people are afraid that their voices will be silenced in the flood of things that are coming out. And one thing that I think I want people to realize and hope that they know is that there's always someone out there listening to them, listening to their stories. Because the thing is, like, it's not strangers. You know, it's not that it's happened to strangers. It happens to people you know. It happened to your mom, your dad. Someone has had this happen to them. Someone in power using their power to extort things from people that they had no right to. And of course, we have the criticism where a lot of people are saying that these white feminists are not allowing people to speak, and I'm like, well, there are times where they are not doing that, but there's also.
And why do you think that way?
I mean, because I don't want to say anything that gets me in trouble. I mean, it is the thing where you look back at for women's right for suffrage to vote. You see, like, who were the people that were in the original, like, who wanted to help fight for suffrage. And in the history books, all you see is, like, Susan B. Anthony and these white women.
That is true.
You know, but though their movement was built on the backs of black women who also wanted the right to vote. And they did this thing where they kind of were like, we'll give white women the right to vote, but not black women. Like, even though the black women fought for that. So you can see that we in America have had a history of disenfranchising women of color. Even though women of color have been the first people to fight for equal rights, like rights, because they know what it's like to not have equal rights. You know, I think something with white feminists, they get so angry about when people of color, when Asian women, when black women call them out on their bullshit. And we say like, hey, hello, you're not the only person fighting. You know, like, I think something where we had the election, Trump's election, where that statistic keeps being waved around, like 50-something% of white women voted for Trump. And a lot of those people, we thought like,
we're supposed to.
you know, we thought, to think like, oh, all women are united, and it really is not. And you can see that with the Women's March. Like, I went to the Women's March last year after the election of Donald Trump.
That's really nice.
And it felt like such, there are moments where it was an empowering march, but then there were moments where I, as a person of color, felt extremely shut down. Like, there was the all these chants, and then like someone next to me was saying like, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and like this woman turned around looking so angry and was like, this is not the place for it. And it's like, if in the Women's March you cannot fight for Black lives, then what is this march doing? Because that march, we ended up like,
It was a woman shouting that, right? The Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were trying to like start that chant, and it was like this thing where we got to the barricade in front of Trump Tower, and it was like the safest march I've ever been a part of. You know, and that's something where.
Have you been in other marches before?
Yeah, I've been to the Black Lives Matter marches, and it's like there is a sense of danger that was not there, which
is good, unfortunately.
Which is unfortunate, which is another matter to discuss at another time. But about the METOO movement, and I think it's good that these stories are coming out. I think there are a lot of stories that haven't come out, and I think that a lot of women of color, yes, have not had the space to tell their stories. And also, it is, when they tell their stories, there's often a more violent backlash to their stories. It's often like, oh, they lied, oh, they are making this up.
Well, I've been told part of the reason is I feel women of color have both an obligation to defend women, but also their own communities.
Of course.
And this is especially true for African Americans when black men are being marginalized and shot, but some of them are also the abusers also. So they feel like, oh, you're going against us if you're calling a black man. I don't. This is an Asian show, so I don't really want to discuss too much of that topic.
I cannot speak for.
But I do. But from an Asian standpoint, I do hear two criticisms from Asian women sometimes, which are very divergent. But I want to throw you a statistic right here. The National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey says 22.9% of Asian American women experience rape, physical violence, and stalking. I totally believe that.
It's only that low?
Yeah, well, that's actually that's
Yeah.
1 out of 4. It feels like 3 out of 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something about, especially my personal point of view is like there is a culture of silence in Asian American communities when it comes to abuse, when it comes to just so many things, when it comes to violence, when it comes to that, because I think there's an innate distrust of law enforcement. There's the language barrier. I mean, you can't really explain to someone that this person did something to you when you don't speak the language. I mean, I remember as a kid, we called the cops, and it was just like there were things that we couldn't. There was a language barrier between my parents and the cops, and the cops immediately profiled my father as like the abuser or as the criminal, you know, versus someone else. And I think that's something where I think that's something with a lot of, I don't want to say victims, but a lot of people who have been raped or sexually abused, is that a lot of people don't report it. They don't report it. And it is not even because they don't want to. It is because a lot of people have reported it. They report it. And law enforcement does not help. They don't
That's
help.
very true. Yeah.
You know, like they will do whatever it takes to blame it on the woman. Like, did you drink too much? Did you wear something too tight? Like it's always the woman's fault in all of these cases. She's initiated.
She
And
asked for it,
and you wonder why, like, when people who have been in domestic abuse relationships, when they leave, like, why there is such a, they're like, why didn't she report it? And it's like, she reported them, and nothing happened. And that's the thing where we need a better way to help people who have been abused and violated and raped. And I think the Me Too movement is starting to do that because it is helping the conversation. Like, I think there's something about where I just was in a rehearsal of a play where we deal with these topics, and it's how now more than ever we have to create this safe space for ourselves as first as women, because then we can be able to start healing everyone else. Like, you know, like you have to heal yourself before you can heal someone else, before you can help. And I think there's something about where all women should realize that we are not alone in this fight, that it is not just white women fighting, it is not just Asian women, Latino, Native women, Black women fighting. It is this thing that we're trying to fight for everyone, and saying that it's not
I think
okay.
women of color understand that more.
Of course,
Yeah,
because
I don't think you have to tell women of color that.
yeah, of course, because we are constantly going through society seen as other when white women
You
can
have that
blend
shared,
in.
neglected. I do want to go back to the two divergent point of views. So I have two quotes, but one was on my phone, so I only have one quote, so forgive me. But one Asian woman kind of blamed Asian culture for causing this problem, and this is her quote. It's from NBC News. Her name is Elaine Hong, Center for the Pacific Asian Family, and she goes, "I think one of the main contributors to," she's talking about Asian culture, "I think one of the main contributors to the culture of rape is deep into patriarchy, and within the framework of patriarchy are the rules and expectations of how Asian Pacific Islander women and girls should and should not behave." So basically she's saying it's the culture that's causing it to happen. And there's a divergent side, but I have it on my phone, so I didn't write it down. I'll try. I will try. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this is the other extreme point of view from Sandy Hong, nonprofit director. It's an article from the Huffington Post, and she says it's an unfortunate thing to say there's a fetishization of Asian American women among the white hetero men, and that's part of what's causing it. The high percentage of rate that Asian women are experiencing this physical violence, rape, and stalking. So employers and everyone need to recognize, how are you disadvantaged by being an underrepresented voice? That's what she said. And I think there's a truth to both of them.
I definitely think so, yeah. I mean, to address the first quote, I think not only is it a problem in Asian culture, which is a big umbrella, it is a big problem in society itself, because a lot of our societies, a lot of our countries are built patriarchal societies, and that is something where you start off with the innate imbalance between men and women. And of course, when there is a huge imbalance of power between men and women, there will often always arise these issues, these clashes, these things where women are sold as property, they're commodities.
But you do agree it's not just one side that's the problem, it's a combination.
I think it's a whole world problem. I think it's not just America, it's not just Asia that has experienced rape of girls. Like in every culture you see, when there is warfare, one of the things that they do is that they rape women and children. Because what do? You attack the root. You attack the people. What is the most personal thing? You rape someone. You take away their power, and that's what they do. And that's something I think that is the culture of men. It is the big thing. That is the big problem. Is that a lot of men in these places view rape as a way of taking power, of women, because women are physically not as strong as certain men, so we can't fight back. And I think there's something where it is the like when you're raped, like it's something that is personal to you. It is personal, and they know that that's the way to really raise across a territory, to conquer a territory. They kidnap, they rape women, and they take away those people. They take them out of the society. They render them useless in a way. And you can trace it back to how virgin women were seen as the most pure thing, and any woman who was not a virgin was impure and a prostitute and all that things. It's we've always valued women with their chastity, and that's something where the only thing a woman has is her ability to give you sex. For some people, that was what it was, that was the worth. But it's now in the 21st century, 2018, with the women, before then the 70s, with the women's liberation movement, is realizing that that's not the only thing. Our pussies are not the only things that are that make us, that are our value. And I think that is, in terms of Asian women, I can't speak for Asian women who are born on mainland Asia. I don't know.
It's a different
thing of them. I know with Asian America, Orientalism, fetishization of Asian women is a huge thing in America, in Western society. There have been books written on how women, there are different types of women. You have to be the geisha, or the just all these women who are subservient, docile, and are there for this man's whims. And that's something where to this day there are intelligent men, educated men, who think that that's what Asian women are. And they're why are you speaking back to me? I thought you're supposed to be shy and shit. And that's some dumbass bullshit.